38. This one is a little bit scary, but we can work through it. Okay, deep breath. So, at a local post office, on average, 3 customers are in line when the post office closes each day. The probability P that exactly n customers are in line when the post office closes can be modeled by the equation P equals 3 to the n times e to the negative 3 over n factorial. Given that given that e to the negative 3 is approximately 0.05, which of the following values is closest to the probability that exactly 2 customers are in line when the post office closes? Okay, so that's a lot of words. It's kind of a scary equation, but let's break it down. So this equation is just telling us that the probability is equal to this. So e to the negative 3 looks scary, but we can just replace that with 0.05. Additionally, n stands for the number of customers. And in this specific problem, we're looking at the case when n is equal to 2. So let's go ahead and substitute these 2 facts into the equation. So P equals 3 squared times 0.05 over 2 factorial. Okay, so that equals 9 times 0.05 over 2 factorial. Okay, so maybe you've seen factorials before, maybe you haven't. I know I had never seen factorials before I took standardized tests, so don't freak out. All it is you take that number you have and you multiply it by all the numbers that come before it starting at 1. So what I mean by that is, for example, 3 factorial is 1 times 2 times 3. And 4 factorial would be 1 times 2 times 3 times 4, and on and on and on. So 2 factorial is simply 1 times 2, or 2. So we can simplify our equation. 9 times 0.05 over 2. Now that looks a lot better. All we have to do now is clean this up. So I always like to replace this with 9 over 2 times 5 over 100. I don't know why, I just think it makes it look easier. That leaves us with probability. I'm going to divide 9 by 2. 4.5 times 5 over 100. So I'm going to multiply 5 times 4.5 times 5 is 25, 5 times 4 is 20, 22.5. So our probability is equal to 22.5 over 100, or 22.5%, which corresponds most closely to answer J, which is our answer. Once again, a lot of times on these kind of problems, you're not going to get an exact answer to an answer that they've listed. So you kind of just have to trust yourself, and sometimes that's going to happen, and just pick the closest answer. If you're way, way, way off or not close to anything, that's probably a sign that you made a mistake, but generally, if you're close within, half a unit, it's pretty much on the money that it's going to be that answer here. 39. Once again, a little bit of tricky terminology here. It's asking us to find the amplitude of this equation. So it depends if you've taken physics or not. If you've taken physics, you might be familiar with this. You might say, oh, this is easy. But if you're not familiar, you might not know what to do at all. So amplitude is, if you're looking at a wave, which is usually modeled by a sine or a cosine function like this, the amplitude is the distance from the midline or the center to the crest here, or the trough here. So when you have an equation, there's 2 ways to solve this problem. When you have the general equation, g of x equals a cosine bx plus c, which you can see is this form, the amplitude is always equal to the absolute value of a. So here we know that the amplitude is equal to the absolute value of 1/2, which means that our answer is going to be B. Alright, so that's the easiest way to solve it. Additionally, another way to solve it, if you didn't know that, is that you know the regular cosine function without anything in front of it, without this factor here, it fluctuates between -1 and 1. So we know that the crest here is going to be at 1, the trough here is going to be at -1. And we know that the amplitude is the distance from the midline to the crest. So it would be equal to half the distance between the trough and the crest. So if we know that, we can set up this inequality here, and then we just multiply by our coefficient. So this can change to -1/2 is less than or equal to 1/2 cosine of 3x plus pi, which is less than or equal to 1/2. So that means that our crest here would be up at 1/2, the trough would be at -1/2. So if you subtract those, 1/2 minus -1/2 is equal to 1. So the distance between these two is 1, and we're just going to divide that by 2. You also get your answer, 1/2. Okay, so let's move on to number 40, which is our last question. More probability. All right. License plates on cars in a certain state consist of 3 letters taken from the 26 letters, A through Z, followed by 3 digits taken from the 10 digits, 0 through 9. Which of the following expressions gives the number of distinct license plates that are possible given that repetition of both letters and digits is allowed? Alright, so an important thing to know when solving this problem is the fundamental counting principle. You don't need to know the name, but you should know the general idea, which is that if event A can occur in m ways, and for each of these ways, B can occur in n ways, there are exactly n times n ways that both can occur together. So this relates to this problem because we are, to form every license plate, we have to pick a digit 3 times, not a digit, a letter 3 times out of the alphabet, the 26 letters of the alphabet, and simultaneously we have to pick a digit 3 times out of the numbers 0 through 9. So each time we pick our letter from the alphabet, we have a 1 in 26 chance of picking every letter. So there are 26 distinct possibilities. So we have 26 times 26 times 26, or 26 cubed. That's going to be our probability of getting distinct order of 3 letters. And then we have our numbers. We have 10 possible numbers, so it's going to be the same thing. Because we can repeat numbers, we can multiply 10 by 10 by 10, because each time we're picking one number out of the 10 numbers, or 10 to the third. So now we just multiply m by n, 26 to the third times 10 to the third, which gives us our answer, f. And there you go. And these initial values are also cases of the m by n. It's just 2 different instances of this event occurring and this event occurring. Basically, whenever things are occurring simultaneously and you're allowed to repeat what you're choosing from, you multiply the probabilities together. There we go. All right. I hope that's helpful. So let's go over some recaps. Recap and tips. Always remember to breathe. So if you're on your test, you read a problem, you don't know what it's talking about, take a deep breath, think about the clues that the problem is giving you, and then go from there. Some definitions are good to know. For example, amplitude, or some equations like the Pythagorean theorem, good to know. And finally, trust your instinct. Sometimes the answer won't be exact, as we showed you in a couple problems earlier. Sometimes you're going to doubt yourself, but be confident in your reasoning, and always look for the logic in the problem. The problem gives you everything you need to solve it. So if you ever get stuck, always a good idea to reread the question and I hope that's helpful. Good luck, guys, on your test. You can do it.